Welcome back to ESPR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Niall and Owen. In the last few days, we've seen Canelo Alvarez defeat Hyman Gia, and we've also seen Naoya Inoue defeat Luis Nery by a brutal stoppage in the mid rounds. So we're making this video to kind of discuss what your top threes are, gents. We've obviously got Usyk against Fury coming up very soon. Crawford's obviously in that mix. He's got facing Madrimov to become a champion in another weight on August the 3rd. So it's a really interesting one. I think we could sit here and kind of debate all day about kind of top 10s, top 15s in each divisions, but we'll see how long it takes us to kind of debate what the pound for pound top three should look like. Owen, I'll start with you. You've had the odds interesting opinion over the years here at ESPR. I hope you don't mind me saying. So I'll start with you. In your pound for pound list, who's number three?
Interesting is quite a light way of putting it. To be honest, I'd say a lot harsher things than that about myself. I think mine's fairly obvious from my tweets and previous videos. I'll do it from 1 to 3. I've got Naoya Inoue at number 1. I don't think much else needs to be said on the monster. I think he's just proven he can win in so many different ways. We've now seen him face the adversity that it was almost questioned what happens when someone catches him. He got dropped in round 1 against a former champion and just absolutely obliterated him for 5 rounds after that. In at number 2 and number 3, now I was having a bit of debate with myself over this. I've still got Terence Crawford in at number 2. I think his resume speaks for itself. I think there was a period of time where Terence Crawford was being questioned over resumes. But for me, unbelievable what he's done, especially the Errol Spence victory. That was a big debate for a long time, and he shut everyone up in incredible fashion. And then number 3, from that big fight you mentioned upcoming, I've got Alexander Usyk, undisputed at cruiserweight, went to everyone's backyard. Some unbelievable fighters, which done a video on previously, which me and Niall were both on, and he's gone up to heavyweight. He's a unified world champion, and he's got the chance to be a two-weight undisputed world champion in an era as well where it's almost looked impossible for heavyweights to do so. So yeah, that's my top 3 at present.
Fantastic. I will come back to you with questions, Owen. But I will hand things over to Niall. Now, Niall, talk us through your top 3, please.
I hope it doesn't sound too boring, but there's going to be it's going to be very similar here. I do have Naya anyway at number 1. For me, the biggest kind of struggle in this list was picking a number 1 and a number 2. It almost feels unfair to say who's number 1 and who's 2 between the top 2 that we have. I know pound for pound lists are so subjective, but I'm gonna go with Naya anyway at number 1. I just think this guy is just one of the best fighters I've ever seen in my life, and I think it's as simple as that. I think in terms of all-round skill, his boxing ability, his speed, his kind of his technical kind of nous, and the power, to go with it. He's just so well rounded and going of course, the multiple weight world titles, going undisputed in 2 weight classes, defeating the likes of Stephen Fulton. That's a huge win, almost quite an underrated win, and the kind of the world of boxing, how good that was. But I just think he's absolutely amazing. And as Owen said, it feels weird saying about how well rounded he is a couple of days after we seen him get dropped heavy. But I think the fact he got dropped almost added another notch to his belt. To be honest, as Owen said, the fact he can go down against a heavy puncher like that, get up and just dismantle him, then after that, it's another kind of positive in his direction. So I've anyway at number 1, and number 2, I've got Terence Crawford. I just think another phenomenal fighter, and saying how hard it was for 1 and 2. They could be 1A or 1B, they really could. Again, 2-weight undisputed champion, 3 division champion, and the Errol Spence win is just huge. That's what kind of was the sticking point for me in resume wise. Who do I rank higher, and what's a bigger win? Anyway, over Fulton or Spence over Crawford over Spence. I've gone anyway, but I'd have no complaints with anyone having Terence Crawford number one. To be honest with you, it's all opinion based. So yeah, Crawford, another amazing fighter, and looks like he's going to do business. I'd pick him to kind of clean up at 154. I really would. So anyway, one Crawford two and Usyk three.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Usyk at number three for me, phenomenal. Owen said it best. His cruiserweight run, amazing. Opponents' backyards, getting it done, going up to heavyweight and beating Joshua twice, unified champion. I was thinking maybe was I being a bit harsh on his run, kind of not ranking his heavyweight run as high as what Crawford and Inoue have done lately, but I just think what Inoue and Crawford have done since Usyk's been a cruiserweight has kind of usurped that. But that being said, we're a week out now from the undisputed fight, and I think I'll say it now. I think if Usyk beats Fury next week, he goes to number one on my list anyway. I think he's one win away from taking top spot from Inoue and Crawford. So yeah, that's my top three. Same as well.
There you have it. Yeah, so both the same top three gents, so we can't kind of have a go at each other, which is a shame. But we'll move. There's a couple of things I do want to ask you about. Canelo Alvarez fought on the weekend. Impressive performance against Jaime Munguia. Dropped him in the fourth round. Won very clearly on points. Doesn't make it in either of your top three lists. Canelo, some would say he's still the face of boxing. Four-weight world champion, undisputed champion at super middleweight. Has fought and beaten quite a few undefeated fighters in the last few years. Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant being three of them. Jaime Munguia, of course, being another one. What would Canelo have to do to get into your top three? I know it's a difficult question, but that's what I'm here for. Now, I'll go back to you.
It is an interesting question, and just because he's not in our top three, I had this conversation on the video with Thomas the other day of where he ranks in pound for pound. He's still top five for me, solidified top five. I don't think his pound for pound ranking should have taken that much of a hit for the Bivol loss. Another pound for pound great. So I do think he's still top five. He come in at number four for me. What he has to do, we were having this conversation again the other day, and I brought the suggestion up that if he was to take a fight in September against Berlanga and come through that, and then the David Benavidez fight happens in either December or May next year, and he wins that. If he was to beat David Benavidez, when a lot of people said he was ducking him, when he's considered to be past his best, and beats Benavidez, I'd have to think very strongly about putting him at number one. I really would. I think it'd be such an amazing win. So I think if the Benavidez fight happens in the next year, 18 months, and he comes through that, who says he couldn't take top spot back? Also, if he went back up to light heavyweight and won a title, beat Bivol in a rematch, I know it's a big ask. Beat Beterbiev in a rematch, it's a huge ask. But if he was to pull that off, he'd be undoubtedly number one again. But a Benavidez win for me, it really get me thinking, to be honest with you. But still top five.
Yeah. No, look, we'll see what Canelo does next. But I think it's tough when there's such an obvious name in his division who is undefeated, who does like a massive threat, who Canelo doesn't seem to have a massive interest in fighting for one reason or another. So it's difficult to have that situation and still have Canelo in the top one or top two. So it's a tricky one. So I understand. Owen, I'm going to throw another name at you. Niall mentioned Alexander Usyk there. We are just over a week away now from that big fight against Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury wins against Alexander Usyk, where is he? Is he in your top three? Does he take Usyk's position third? Does he go at second or even first? Maybe if you consider Fury would be undefeated, he'd be the first undisputed heavyweight champion in 25 years. Where would Fury be if he beats Usyk, Owen?
He's definitely top 10 for me, but I don't think I could have him in the top three. It all comes down to what you've won, and obviously Fury's unlucky that he's such a giant of a man that he's not going to be able to be a multiple weight world champion. Whereas he likes of Inoue can put on an extra, he starts off at sort of light flyweight, he can put an extra 2 or 3 pound on, he moves up another division. I just think when you go, for me, pound for pound, you go through resumes, you go through what they've done recently. I like the pound for pound to be sort of a mixture of past and current, not just sort of someone's on a good run now, but they had a terrible run so many fights ago, sort of thing. So for me, I think he needs more than just Usyk to be at the very top. I mean, I might get pouted for this, but I've said it before. I think if you pick Fury's resume apart, it's not great. Klitschko, Deontay Wilder, okay. But then if you start comparing to the fights, like we say, like Inouye's had, like Canelo's had, like Crawford's had, the list goes on forever. I'd even be looking at putting someone like Bivol above him, probably currently. And even a name that doesn't really get mentioned, that Niall sort of mentioned in a possible fight. See, with Bivol Beterbiev, I think Beterbiev could even be in for a shout, sort of over Fury. It's a difficult one because I wouldn't want to say he's held the WBC title at ransom, because I think that's overly harsh. But I think he could have done more. There's bigger fights he could have had. And realistically, if he gets the Usyk win, if he then fights Joshua and beats Joshua, then I think I have to hold my hands up and say, there we are. But until that happens, not for me.
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one with Fury because as good as he is, he's not done anything overly impressive in the last couple of years, if we're being honest now. But look, let's just see what happens on May the 18th. And Niall, what do you have to say about what Owen's got to say? If Fury does win on May the 18th, is he then in your top three? Is he fourth? Where would he be at?
This probably will be quite controversial, going by what Owen just said. But if Fury beats Usyk, I think he's at least top three, and I don't know, would I have another consideration to put Fury at number one if he beats Usyk? It's just such a big win for me. As I said, likewise, if Usyk beats Fury, I think I have to have him at number one. I know Usyk done more with his cruiserweight run, etc., beat Joshua, but if Fury kind of beats this bogeyman who people think are going to beat him, he's considered to be past his best after Ngannou dropped him. This is supposed to be the undoing of Tyson Fury. So if Fury beats Usyk, it will be the biggest win in boxing for me over a currently active fighter. So I'd have no problem with putting Fury number one if he beat Usyk. I know his resume isn't the strongest overall, but he has Klitschko, has Wilder twice, and if he beat Usyk, yeah, it'd be the best win in the sport for me, to be honest with you. So I'd throw him number one if he beats Usyk. It might be a brave shout, but yeah.
We shall see. Yeah, look, I'm sure people will be, regardless of who wins on May the 18th, I'm sure there will be people calling for that person to be the pound for pound king. I've got one more question for both of you gents. I know it's a tricky one. I want to know, I'm going to give you both minutes to think about it, but I want to know in 5 years' time, it's 2029, we'll probably still be here talking shit about boxing, let's be honest. In 2029, who will be the pound for pound king in 5 years' time? Because the reason why I'm asking this is because all the names we've mentioned, Canelo, Inoue, Crawford, Usyk, Fury, in 5 years' time, all of those guys are going to be retired, in my opinion. Inoue's 31 now, but for someone at the lighter weights, you're not still going to be fighting at 36. I don't think so anyway. It's a tricky one because even if you look at the likes of like Beterbiev, Bivol that you guys have mentioned as well, good chance they'll be retired as well. So I want to know if there's anyone that stands out to you. Obviously, there's some American fighters, aren't they? Juan Ennis, Gervonta Davis, Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez. There's probably others I've not mentioned. But in the minute that I've given you to kind of think about this question, is there a name that shouts out to you to be like, that guy's the future pound for pound king? Owen, I'll go back to you. Is there anyone that really does shout out to you?
I think you've already said the name. I think when you look at age, you look at who there is, I think a couple of names. One of them, one of Inoue's countrymen, Nakatani, was one that first come to mind. I think he's got stardom potential, but I think Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez, he's got, for those weights, you look at Inoue, I think one of the biggest things about Inoue is his power, and power at those lower weights are what propel you through through the divisions. So I think Jesse Rodriguez, I think he's got 16-0, 11 KOs or so. Do you know what I mean? He's got a massive win over Sonny Edwards. So I think the sky's the limit for him. It is a really tough one because, you know, we could have looked at possibly Devin Haney, but that's a big loss to Ryan Garcia, although potentially shrouded in controversy. Obviously, you've got to wait for all that to come up. But yeah, I'd be looking at Rodriguez or potentially Nakatani. It just depends how Nakatani gets marketed for me, really. And then obviously we possibly go forward. And then for the bigger weights, I did really like when he first sort of made his debut, Jared Anderson. But he's sort of mellowed out for me massively. So I'm really struggling for sort of someone at the bigger weights at the moment.
Yeah, it's all good. I think it's a tricky question, and I think, yeah, look, it's a tricky one. But in terms of like one, obviously, kind of you've named a couple there, but yeah, there's some good contenders there for pound king. Now we'll end things with you here. Give us a name or two in terms of who you see being the dominant force in boxing in 5 years' time.
There were good names said by Owen there. I like the Bam Rodriguez show, to be honest with you. I think he has all the potential, multi-weight world champion already, and just running through people. So, but I like Bam. One of the names that came to my mind immediately was Devin Haney. Even though he lost to Garcia, I do think he has it in him to come back. But to throw a different name out there, the one that kind of came to my mind immediately is Shakur Stevenson. To be honest, I think Shakur Stevenson has what it takes, has the skills, age is on his side. Like Bam, already a multi-weight kind of champion. So it's just about getting those big fights now. But I think if he was to get the big fights against the likes of Davis, Teofimo, even maybe a Devin Haney, I'd favour him kind of in those to come through. So I'm gonna go Shakur Stevenson for me. I think he'll be up there.
Yeah, I think with Stevenson, like a lot of it comes down to whether the super fights happen, i.e., Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, and if those fights happen and he has wins over those guys, then it would be hard to deny him that title. Niall, Owen, good to speak to both of you. Really interesting topic, and we'll probably do it again in a few months' time to see if opinions have changed or not. But thank you both very much for your time.